Hello there, what is going on everyone? Today we are doing a top 10 list of Star Wars crossover games that we need to see what's likely, what should get made. For as long as Star Wars has been a property, an IP, it has been basically a license to print money. And in an economy where board game manufacturers are less and less willing to try new things and more willing to go with what works, Star Wars has always been something that they could just sort of slap on and copy over onto an existing game. From everything from Monopoly to Risk to Uno and other classics like that to more modern games like Pandemic and Villainous, we've seen Star Wars show up in a lot of different games and a lot of different IPs from a lot of different publishers. But what are my top 10 wants, needs, desires to see Star Wars show up at, especially in a world where X-Wing and Armada have been canceled and we have no Star Wars spaceship games? I feel like the sort of the scenery is right for more Star Wars games to hit store shelves. Let's give my top 10 here in just a moment. We are going to do a little bit of admin stuff first. First off, if you're new here to the channel, I talk a lot about Star Wars and gaming and tabletop gaming and miniatures gaming and wargaming and a lot of stuff like that. If you're interested in these things, you're in a great place. I'd love to have you stick around. I try to do videos every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends also. Like tomorrow, I'm doing a big live stream on Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time where we're giving away lots of packages to go to Adepticon, lots of packages that include passes to get in, gift certificates on their web store, as well as an advanced pass, which is a really big mega bundle that has a whole bunch of really cool stuff, as well as some promos and other cool little things that we're going to be doing. That's tomorrow. Definitely subscribe. Click that bell for alerts so you don't miss when we go live. And for all the other content I've got too, we got links down in the video description below if you want to join our Discord and keep the discussion going there, or any of the other links, or if you're even interested in joining the team on Patreon and helping to support the channel. Links for all of that are in the description below. With all that being said, let's go ahead and jump in to number 10 on my list. Number 10 joins us as a hidden role game. It's One Night Ultimate Werewolf. This is a series of games called One Night games. They have One Night Ultimate Alien, Vampire, even Superhero. Very cool games. I love hidden role games. I love to play games like Werewolf or Blood on the Clock Tower and similar style games. But One Night offers a really cool way where you don't actually have to have somebody kind of conduct the game. Your smartphone can do that for you, and it plays very, very fast and allows you to play it multiple times. And it's an expandable game where you can, if you have One Night Ultimate Werewolf, you can play that. If you have One Night Ultimate Werewolf and you have One Night Ultimate Superhero or whatever you like, you can mix and match. And so, like, I only have one of these. I have One Night Ultimate Alien. Really fun games, though. I enjoy them. It's great when you have a group of people and you want something everybody can play together without somebody having to do the hidden role stuff where they're running the game and they don't get to play. The phone can do it for you. I feel like it would really work very cool if you could be like, okay, One Night Ultimate Bounty Hunter or something like that. I feel like there's a lot of Star Wars theming that could fit into this, like different, maybe there's different bounty hunters. Maybe somebody's like a rebel spy. Maybe somebody's an Imperial ISB agent. There's lots of different maybe somebody's a Hutt representative. Like there's all kinds of different roles that you could fit into something where there's a lot of spy and subterfuge, and especially with Andor coming out and like Rogue One and a lot of like the dark underbelly of the rebellion. It also kind of fits into some of that hidden role shenanigans. So I feel like it could really work and it'd be fun. Let's move on to number 9. Number 9, we're coming in with one of the classic all-time tabletop games, The Settlers of Catan. Look, this game is, of course, it's been around forever. It's seen a lot of stuff. It does have a space version. It actually has multiple. They've even done Star Trek Catan. This is a very simple game about resource collection and trading and trying to build roads and cities and rolling dice and collecting resources. It's a very simple, fundamental mechanic, often imitated, never duplicated, except, of course, when they duplicate it and make different versions of Settlers of Catan or various expansions to it. But this could totally work for Star Wars as well. You could have all sorts of different resource changes. You could have like Bacta and other things like that, and Kyber crystals, and duranium, and all these different stuff like that. Like it could totally work I think it's an easy win. And people would be, I mean, they've licensed so many other ones. They Star Trek, Game of Thrones has a Catan, all kinds of stuff. It's also under Asmodees too. So a lot of these games, but not all of them, will also be under Asmodee. So it makes it a lot easier for these things to work. That's number 9. Let's come into number 8, and that's going to be Taboo, one of my all-time favorite party games. This is great. It's a great game. It's a game that's been around forever. If you've never played it, it's kind of like charades in a way. You have 2 teams, and you'll have one speaker, one person at a time, who's going to read for their team. You're going to have a card. It's going to have a word at the top that you've got to get everybody to guess. But underneath that is going to be 5 taboo words that you cannot say. Now, when I say taboo, I'm not talking about Luke kissing Leia. I am talking about words that you're forbidden to say. And so if in normal taboo, if I wanted my team to guess chocolate, I might not be able to say milk. I might not be able to say dark. I might not be able to say candy. Things like, might not be able to say cocoa. All kinds of cool stuff like that. And there'll be somebody else from the other team watching me with a buzzer to make sure that I don't say any of the taboo words. And you have a 1-minute timer, and you have to get through as many cards as you can, getting your team to say these things. And I feel like it works very easily to insert a ton of cards that have Star Wars names, people, places, and things, and subjects, and super lasers and Death Stars and all kinds of cool stuff like that. I think it totally works. Plus, you could also do things that aren't specific Star Wars proper nouns, like you could say speeder, things like that. And certainly words that might have a Star Wars appeal, like you might have Hoth, but you might also have snow, and maybe Hoth is a word. Maybe you can insert some of the Star Wars stuff into things that, into the keywords that they can't say. Plus, it's a fun party game, and it's easy to teach, too. And that's a big thing. It's a big moneymaker when you have simpler games or games that are very well known that people can buy without having to read a very long rule book. And Taboo is very good for that. Coming in at number 7, it's Codenames. This is another party game that divides you into teams. And similar to Taboo, it does have one person on each team that has information, and they're trying to relay that information to the other team. But in this case, there's there are a lot of different cards on the board, and you're trying to get your team to guess as many, to pick all of your cards before the other team does. And there are all kinds of different words like cow and city and car and things like that. And I might say animal 3 or something like that, and you'll have to guess three animals, but I don't want you to guess the other team's words because all of the cards are laid out. And so it basically has a code master for each team. This game has already had expansions. It's been licensed for other things like Marvel, and it really plays off of your team's knowledge of the deeper meaning of the words that are on the cards and not just the words themselves. And that really factors in very, very well to Star Wars. Like you could have all of the different bounty hunters on there, but maybe some of the bounty hunters are on the other person's team. So I don't want to just say Bounty Hunter 2 or Bounty Hunter 3. I might actually have to say Mandalorian 2 or Rocket Launcher 2, or a single, something like that. So this is pretty cool stuff. I don't think I can say 2 words. I don't think I could do rocket launcher, but I can say rocket, things like that. So Codenames is number 7. Coming in to number 6, it's one of the most popular tabletop games of modern days, and that's Splendor. Splendor it's won tons of awards. It's been one of the most popular games for, I want to say, like maybe 9-10 years in a row now. Massively popular game. So popular that it's eclipsed the board gaming community and it's just become more of a household name. This game is about, it's an engine building game, has a little bit of set collecting, has these cool little gems that you're trying to collect. It's already seen an Infinity Stone, like a Marvel variant as well. So again, it factors really, really well into any Disney property because it already plays nice with all of that. But I could really see this being like a Kyber crystal collection variant. You have all the different colors of gems that you're collecting. You could be collecting different color of Kyber crystals. And in place of the nobles that you would, if you've ever played Splendor, there are nobles that come out. Instead of nobles, you're trying to impress different Jedi masters. And the game practically writes itself for how you do the conversion. Super easy, and it would sell like hotcakes. I would buy it. I already have Splendor, and I would buy a Star Wars version. Now, they could also add a new version. Like, you know, if you're doing like the Infinity Gauntlet, I think with the Thanos version, they had like some extra. Oh, and here's an extra win condition. If you get all 5 gems, then you can snap and do. You know, they can add an extra mode that's more of a has a Marvel spin on it. They could do that for Star Wars too. They could add an extra mode that has a little bit more of a Star Wars spin on it. And that could be fun as well. Like they could maybe put some power cells in there, and you could build a lightsaber instead of just collecting, you know, kyber crystal. Or they could put like a dark saber crystal in there, or Sith crystals that do something different, that play differently from the rest of the game. You know, like a lot of cool stuff like that. So that's Splendor at number 6. Number 5, we're coming in with an amazingly beautiful game called Dixit. If you aren't familiar with Dixit, I'll try to give you a quick rundown. In some ways, this initially reminded me of the function of Cards Against Humanity without all of the crude humor and antics. One person at a time will be the person who's picking cards, and everybody else will submit cards. However, the person who's picking also, basically, they actually play a card also. So we're all going to have a hand of like 7 cards. Each of them has a beautiful piece of art with no words on it. And the art is very abstract and can be usually taken multiple different ways. As you can see here in the box art, this guy is like on a balloon or some kind of rope ladder, but he's painting, and he's painting the clouds in the sky. So it's very dream-esque, right? There's a Disney version of this. It has lots of like Disney-inspired art, and it's basically a game all about art. I'll give a phrase, and I'll say like dreamscape or something like that. And then everybody else has to put a card from their hand down that they think matches dreamscape. I'll shuffle them all up and I'll deal them all out, and everybody has to pick which one they think is my card. You want to fool everybody else into thinking yours is the card that says dreamscape or something like that. So you want to pick something that's good. But I don't want to be too on the nose, because if everybody finds my card, they get points and I don't. But if nobody finds my card, I get no points either. I only score if some people find my card, but not all of them. So I want to have a clue that's a little obscure, but not too far. You know, right in the middle. Now that could work really well for Star Wars. It would be an awesome opportunity to get a whole bunch of really cool Star Wars art commissioned and have it be sort of abstract. We don't really see that much abstract Star Wars art outside of Star Wars Unlimited with some of that early stuff. You know, that was a little wild with some of it. But no, I mean, I think it's a great opportunity to have a great expansion for Dixit to add to your collection. The Disney version, we have the core game and we have the Disney version, and that was absolutely spectacular too. Like, my family loves this game, and we would love a Star Wars version as well. So, yeah, definitely very popular game. Moving on to our final 4 in this case. If you haven't already, go ahead and do a pause. Let me know what you think I'm going to have in some of the top 4. Let me know your number 1 pick as well, and maybe we'll get it right. Okay, here we go. Number 4, a game I've talked a little bit about recently, and I very much like. It's Thunder Road Vendetta by Restoration Games. This is a game that was brought back to life by Restoration Games and recently had a Kickstarter with more expansions. I've got the Maximum Chrome Edition. I've got pretty much everything for this game as of right now. This is, think Mad Max, the board game. You have cars and you are racing them, and you have helicopters and you're doing like a death race. And you want to be first person across the finish line or the last car standing. Now, why do I think this would work for Star Wars? Pod racing! It practically sells itself. You could have different pods, and it's absolutely perfect. Or you could have other things like pods, like you could have speeders, you could have Imperial speeder bikes, you could have swoop gangs, you could have all of this cool stuff. It really fits into like the Tatooine vibe. It really fits into like it just works. It just really, really works. Or you don't even have to do pod racing and ground stuff. You could also go with that show Star Wars Resistance, where they had the aces that were racing around the rings and stuff like that, because they actually could shoot each other as well. However, in this case, I think it leans way more into pod racing than anything else. So I think that would be a super groovy thing to be able to do. Alternatively, I'll throw a third option out there. You could have like Obi-Wan riding a giant lizard, and other mounted characters like Luke and Han on a Tauntaun, and General Grievous and his motorbike, and Gungans riding Kadoos, and all kinds of cool stuff like that. But I'll leave it with my first choice. I think pod racing is the best option for a Thunder Road crossover. And this is just a fun, chaotic game. And it's a blast. Everybody I've had play it has enjoyed it. And so it's super cool. All right, number three. Number three for Star Wars crossovers that need to happen, it's Magic the Gathering. I think you knew it had to be on here at some point. This is one of the most iconic tabletop games of all time, definitely in recent times. And it just endures, and it keeps going, and it keeps working. Now, I know it's probably unlikely that this is going to happen anytime in the immediate future, primarily due to the success of Star Wars Unlimited. However, I think most of Star Wars Unlimited's success was in its first wave, and it's going to take the test of time to see if it continues to endure up to like 6 expansions, 7 expansions. Is it going to make it that far? Is it going to continue to thrive? I have a feeling it will still continue to exist, but I don't know if it's going to have the staying power that it seems to have had after its first wave. That being said, if it had failed tremendously, I think there was definitely plans. There's definitely been a lot of rumors that Magic the Gathering, with their universes, sets, and all of their different commander decks, and all of the crossovers that Magic the Gathering has been doing, and they have been doing a ton. There's a whole Marvel set that has already started to come out with their Secret Lair drops. Which means they're working with Disney. Right? If somebody can do Marvel, then it stands to reason it shouldn't be a bridge too far for them to also be able to do Star Wars. It's not like we're asking them to do Batman here. It's not like we're trying to get Marvel and DC in the same game, although that has happened in other things too, like Fortnite. But it definitely could happen with Magic the Gathering, considering they're doing Spider-Man sets and all the other sets. They've done Lord of the Rings, they've done Warhammer 40K, they've done Doctor Who, they did SpongeBob SquarePants, all this great, crazy stuff. I really would love to see a Magic the Gathering Star Wars set, to get some of those Universes Beyond commander decks for Star Wars. I would absolutely love it, even if it's just a standalone set, or even if it's just commander decks. Although I think if they were going to do Star Wars, if they got the rights, they would probably do multiple sets, and it could be a really cool thing. But I don't know if they'd have the rights to do too many sets of Magic the Gathering in the Star Wars edition, but I would be down for that so very, very much. I think I would have a great time with it. Not to say that I have any problems with Star Wars Unlimited. I just think Magic is the one that's going to outlast everything, and I'd love to see Star Wars make its way to Magic the Gathering. Let's jump up to number 2. It's one of Asmodee's number 1 games. It's Ticket to Ride. This is definitely one of the most popular tabletop games. Every tabletop gamer I talk to is familiar with Ticket to Ride. I believe it's Asmodee's number 1 game, or at least was as of a few years ago. For looking at stock reports and Embracer Group stuff, it's definitely one of their number 1 selling titles. It has seen so many different reprints and rebrandings and different flavors and different editions. There's been a lot of different Ticket to Rides, and it could totally work for Star Wars because you have hyperspace lanes. Absolutely works. The way this works is you have like a map of the United States, for example, or a map of the world, or a map of Europe. I think I have the European version out in the garage. So we had this one, and then my wife spilled coffee all over it. It was a travesty, let me tell you. However, all was not lost, because we bought a deluxe edition. It was the Ticket to Ride Europe edition, and has better trains, and everything is better. So it's very, very cool. But we have this. So you have all these lanes, and you're trying to connect lanes. You're trying to connect like one city to another city, and then to the next city and the next city. You want to have like a full access route of all of your trains to meet certain cards. Like, I need a route from Paris to London. Oh, I can get from Paris to here, and I can get from here to here, and here to here, and then and I finally made it to London. Boom, and I score points off of this one. But if you're missing at least one crucial stop along the way, you have to find an alternate route around, and that could work for hyperspace lanes. And the cool thing is, I think most Ticket to Rides have like 4 or 5 players worth of trains in the box. You could easily do that with Star Wars. You could have different factions of Imperial Remnant. You could have like Architans if you had Moff Gideon. You could have Star Destroyers if it was Thrawn. You could have Rebels. You could have little Mon Calamari MC-80s if it was Admiral Akbar. You could have little CR-90s if it was Leia, and stuff like that. You could have all these really recognizable Star Wars ships, and each one could be a different color, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff with them. Like, they do great things with some of the deluxe editions of these. The trains are just beautiful, and it just makes for a really fun game. So love to see it. I think you could do hyperspace lanes, and it would be like Ticket to Hyperspace or something like that, or Ticket to Fly. I'd love to see it. I think it would be like printing money. You slap Star Wars on Ticket to Ride, forget about it. Not to mention they do also have trains in Star Wars, but I think hyperspace lanes is definitely the way to go if you're going to do that. All right, it's time for the number one game that I want to see a Star Wars crossover with, and it's tough because there's been a lot of great ones. I still really want Magic the Gathering, but I just think Ticket to Ride is gonna be an instant success, and it's also already under Asmodee, so it's more likely. Here's one that was already Star Wars anyway. It's Twilight Imperium. Twilight Imperium needs a Star Wars version. I would love to see it. I don't know if they'll ever do it because it's kind of like already Star Wars without the IP, and so to stick the Star Wars license on there, you know what? I'd buy it though. I think a lot of people would. Twilight Imperium is an epic, ultra long 4X game of conquest and diplomacy and struggle and trade and politics and everything. And it starts off with everybody kind of racing for the center planet of the system, which is Mechatol Rex. Is usually when somebody's a first-time player, you kind of compare it to Coruscant. And whoever gets there first sees this power, and they can become the speaker, and they can have all this power each turn, and then you have this giant, everybody else gets to kind of vote in these senatory proceedings and on different rules and things that will change the laws of the game and things like that, which is just incredible. Plus, you're building fleets. They have War Suns, which are basically Death Stars that somebody can build. And there's so many different races and factions, and this is where it really fits very well into Star Wars, especially with the amount of lore that we have now. Ever since the Clone Wars has come out, and we've had, we go so deep into all of these different planets and their local governments. This could be like the only difficulty I see with really doing this is you'd be having an alternate history of Star Wars. If you wanted to make the story of a Star Wars version of Twilight Imperium make sense, you'd have to have it be like in an alternate version of Star Wars where all of the races aren't currently on Coruscant. It would have to be like a fractured allegiances where you have, maybe you have a race of Rhodians. Maybe you have a race of humans from Coruscant. You wouldn't even be able to just do humans. You'd probably have to have specific types of humans. You might have to have Trandrilla, which is led by Mon Mothma, and all these other things. And they're all kind of competing for influence and power. You could have Leia for Alderaan, and things like that. It's just probably not even Leia. Actually, it would be it would be Bail Organa from Alderaan, but Leia could be one of the leaders if they do like some of the leaders expansions and all of that cool stuff. There's just so many amazing ways to make it work, and I think it would be an absolute runaway success. It'd be massively huge. I'd love to see it. I think it's a likely thing to potentially happen, but I don't know if it really will, because Twilight Imperium is such a great game in its own right that I don't think we need another version of it, but I do. I would love to see it because, again, it already feels like an epic Star Wars sort of space opera on your tabletop. It's one of my favorite games of all time, maybe my favorite game of all time, if, of course, you have enough people with enough time to actually sit down and play it, because this is one of those games that can take all day. Although with a seasoned group of experienced players, you can get a solid 4 to 5 player game done in about 4 to 5 hours instead of it being all day. But those are going to be 4 to 5 gloriously well spent hours, and you might even include a pizza break halfway through so everybody can eat up and then get back to backstabbing each other and blowing up each other's home systems and seizing Mechatol Rex and all of this other stuff. So again, it really could work for Star Wars. I think it'd be great. And that is my list of 10 games I'd love to see Star Wars sort of get a copy-paste or a Star Wars version of. Let me know what you want to see down in the comments section below. I'd love to hear from you guys. You can also let me know on social media or in our Discord channel. Check all the links in the video description below. And don't forget to look out for that awesome live stream tomorrow. You just got to be a subscriber and you got to tune in, and we'll give you cues on when we're giving them away and how you can enter to win during tomorrow's live stream. I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are out of this world and help make this whole channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. And always wash your socks.